Hey guys, welcome back to A&J Education YouTube channel. In today's video, we have a very special guest, Ollie Scott, who is here to talk about careers in law. Ollie, great to have you back with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Just a bit of background about Ollie. Ollie graduated from Downing College, Cambridge, with a first-class degree in history. So not a law, not a jurisprudence. But Ollie did really well. Became third in his year out of a couple hundred students, which is no joke. Is now. So, are you a trainee barrister or trainee solicitor?
Solicitor. So I need to do. Well, we can get into it. I'm still a student, effectively, for a year or two.
Okay. So you listen. Why not? What the hell? Let's just get into it. So. Personally, I was, and maybe they're just me, I was always really confused about sort of the barrister-solicitor difference. Can you explain how that works?
Well, I think it is quite confusing. It's also, as far as I'm aware, relatively unique to the UK. So if you're a lawyer in the US, you will have advocacy rights. So you'll be able to talk in court. This is your kind of Harvey Specters, etc. But in the UK, we have a slight difference. So typically, barristers are who will represent clients in court. Solicitors will work very closely with barristers if in the case of litigation, but will be behind or as a helping hand. It's slightly confused in that solicitors can now have advocacy rights, and you can have QC solicitors who will represent clients directly in court. But I imagine if you're really into public speaking, and like that idea of, being in court every day, I think barrister's the way to go.
Okay. And someone once described it to me as sort of a GP surgeon, GP specialist difference, where solicitor is a generalist and a barrister is a specialist. Is that true?
There are probably elements of truth to it. Within as a solicitor, especially at sort of a big firm, like you will end up specializing. It would be quite rare to do both litigation and transactional work from what I've not actually worked as a solicitor, so I can't say exactly. I imagine the solicitors will say, no, we can do it all and be very specific. And the barristers will say, yeah, we do it all and we're also specific. But that might well be true what you said. I'm not entirely sure.
No. Well, the person who told me had a lot of conviction, so he was either lying or anyway, we'll get to that later. Okay, so and what's the path? Because how come you're now basically going to become a solicitor when you've got a history degree? I thought you need a law degree to do that, right?
No, effectively. So most solicitors, big law firms hire about 50-50. So 50 of them will have done 50%, that is, will have done a law degree, 50% won't. So it's very possible to convert from any degree. There'll be physicists who go into law, mathematicians who go into law. It's probably slightly rarer, but it's very possible. It just requires you to do an extra year on something called the PGDL. By the time this comes out, it might all be quite outdated because I know they're changing the process. So they're moving to something called the SQE, which will basically replace the current conversion route. So things will be slightly different. But effectively, it doesn't matter what degree you do. You can go into law from any route, really.
Okay. And so does it work? So if you have a law or jurisprudence degree, then you can go straight and become a solicitor post-graduation?
You have to do, at the moment, a 6-month extra course or year extra course. It's called a legal practice course. But effectively, yes, it's a much shorter, whereas I'll be doing sort of a year and a half before I can be a trainee. If you've done a law degree, you're more like half a year.
And so what are the names? So the one that you do, if you don't have law background, that's a GBL?
GDL, so it's graduate diploma in law, or it might be called PGDL, which is just postgraduate diploma in law. And then an LPC, which is a legal practice course.
And sorry, an LPC, this is for someone who...
That's for a solicitor. If you're doing the bar, so if you want to be a barrister, I can't remember exactly, something like the BPTC. It's an acronym. that you'd do.
Of course.
But the only thing is, I know they're in the process of changing it, and it's going to be something called the SQE, which is Solicitor's Qualifying Exam, I think. If you look it up on like the Student Lawyer or something like that, I'm sure there'll be a much better explanation than I can give. Effectively, the idea is to open the law up. So with a law degree will no longer be qualifying. You'll still have to sit extra exams. It's to make it easier to become a solicitor or a barrister, effectively.
Okay, so if we just take a step back. So basically, it doesn't matter what degree you have. You can still, but you need a degree. You can't.
You need. Well, again, I think definitely the most common route would be to have a degree. I think it might be possible to get, certainly on the new course, it will be possible if you sit these exams and you have the qualifying work experience. I think you would be able to get in without a degree. Maybe not quote me on that, but I suspect the vast majority of people will have had a degree of some sort. Okay,
so you can have a degree, whatever it is. Then you still need to have another sandwich degree before you can become either solicitor or barrister, and you need to kind of you choose, and each one has their own pros and cons. So you just need to do the research, maybe talk to solicitors and barristers.
Yeah, universities will have careers fairs where you'll be able to find contact details very easily. So yeah.
And generally speaking, people, when a younger person emails saying, "Hey, I'm looking for advice," people are generally quite open to helping.
Yeah, you might have to send a few emails, especially if you've got it from college or your university have said to get in touch. They might even say you, Sonny, like, look, Oliver wants to get in touch with you. You'd hope you get a response. But there'll also be lots of like seminars where anyone can go, or you can talk to someone at a careers fair and always take down their details as well if you want to try and get in contact. I'd be aware that if you're a high-flying barrister, you're going to be pretty busy. So I wouldn't expect like a response in 5 minutes, but hopefully you get something back.
Let's say you've made your mind up. Then there is the sandwich degree, and there are different types based on whether you have law background for your undergrad or not. If you have law background, currently it's a bit shorter, although that may change. And then for barrister, there is also, and for barrister, does it make a difference whether you have a law background or not, or is it the same?
I'm not sure. It should be fairly similar, I think, 50-50. From my experience of talking to people, there's a very big mix. You will still do, if you have a non-law background, you still need to do this GDL. So you wouldn't actually have to decide if you want to be a barrister or solicitor until a little bit later. Ideally, you'd have an idea before you go in, I think. So you might be able to get funding from places.
Oh, okay. So GDL works, if you have non-law background, GDL works for both solicitor route and the barrister route.
Pretty certain on that. Again, if you want to look it up, I'm sure it'll be very easy to find out and potentially correct me. But I think both routes.
Okay. And all right. So let's say you've done that sandwich degree, and then you've decided. Let's say you want to be a solicitor. Let's talk about that. So, by the way, why did you decide? Just taking a step back, why did you decide to be a solicitor? Is it because there is more money to be made as a solicitor, or why not barrister?
Feels like my interview here. I chose solicitor because there's basically two kind of sides of law. There's litigation and there's more kind of transactional things. I was quite interested in the transactional side of things. So things like corporate M&A, private equity, those kind of fields, which typically kind of big law firms and solicitors get very involved in that. But yeah, like I think you can also then choose to go into litigation. This comes back to a little bit where you're saying about openness and generalizing. The training contract route at a law firm, you get to try 4 different areas of law, potentially more, depending on which firm you're at. And that appealed to me. But it's not an easy decision, I don't think. And you can potentially switch in later if you wanted to. I think it'd take a bit of time, but you're not locked off from either route.
So with the GDL you're about to do, so did you apply? you said that you have funding for that. So who's funding your degree?
So the law firm that I'm at, I applied directly to them. So this typically happens in second year. So if you're a second year university student, be on the lookout. They tend to close around January. A lot of them are rolling applications. And I did a vacation scheme, which is basically just a couple of weeks work experience. I did that at 2 firms. And then I did exit interviews at those and then got offered a job. And once I had that job, it's very nice, by the way, going into third year if you've got somewhere to go on to. So if you can get things done early, it's brilliant. They then will fund my conversion route, and I get a grant as well to kind of live on a bit. So it's a very good thing. I guess the downside is you then have to complete the 2 years training at that firm. If you don't do that, I think you'll be liable for the expenses. So just be aware, you're a little bit more locked in. But these courses aren't cheap. They're sort of £10,000-12,000. So if you can get funding, it's really great.
No, kind of a no-brainer. And, you know, how bad can it be, right? So, well, I guess you'll find out. Okay, so you did the course, and then you know, what's the progression like? So what, you know, when you actually become a solicitor, you said there are 4 areas in the firm, and then you know, law firms, they're partnerships, right? So can you just tell us a bit more about progression within a law firm?
So once you've done your GDL or you've done your LPC or SQ, whatever it is, you'll then have 2 years work experience. I said, well, you're employed and you're paid, but you're not yet a qualified solicitor. To become a qualified solicitor, you need to have 2 years experience there. And this is what will be called a training contract. I think for barristers, it's called a pupillage. I think it might only be 1 year. You do that. Most training contracts are kind of 4-6 month seats. Often the 4th one you might be able to do abroad or in another company. That would be called a secondment. After that, you then choose which area you want to kind of go into. So you might have sat in kind of litigation, so like courtroom stuff, something on like mergers and acquisitions, something on pensions, and something on employment law. And then you sort of choose which area you want to specialize in. And then you're a newly qualified solicitor. From here on out, I'm not as aware what goes on, but you basically have sort of steps you go up, and the ultimate idea is you become a partner if you really enjoy it. And as you say, most are their equity or their kind of partnership models. So you're then a sharer in the business, or potentially you're a non-equity partner as well. But I think what most people think of it is you're an equity partner. So you kind of share in the profits and the loss, and you could probably get paid quite a lot if you get up to there. But I think that's quite difficult. It'll take a bit of time.
And then, well, I guess, you know, we can do this interview again in 20 years' time to see.
Yeah, I'll see where I ended up.
Yeah, to see how it's going. Ollie, just quickly, and I know you're not, obviously you don't know the barrister route just as much, but does it work similarly? Do you know that someone sponsors you to pay for your degree, or? I
think you can. I think the important thing to remember with a barrister is you're, as far as I'm aware, self-employed, or you're part of the chambers. So you're not, whereas as a solicitor, you're employed by a company. And there are benefits to that in terms of you'll have a fixed salary. You might be incentivized by a bonus, but you're still getting paid like that. Whereas at a lot of, for barristers, it might well be that you're setting your own hours and it's sort of as much work as you can do. But again, I don't know as much about it, so that might be a slightly outdated view. Typically, I believe you do a mini pupillage. No, that's like work experience. You do a pupillage, probably about a year. If they let you on, you then join the chambers. And there'll be different chambers, a bit like solicitors for different areas of law. So you could be a criminal barrister or like a commercial barrister or a family barrister. And then I imagine it's a similar thing. You can work your way up. I think QC is a big sort of honour if you become that. I don't really know how long that takes. I think you have to be pretty good. And maybe you want to become a judge after that, get to wear some cool robes and stuff. I don't really know. But that's sort of what happens, I think.
Gosh. It's pretty intense. And so judges, you know, who are judging today, they, 40, 50 years ago were in your shoes, right? So they were doing a training contract, then becoming a solicitor or a barrister.
Yeah. So again, I don't know how it works to be a judge. I imagine you'd need a legal background, but I think you can be both a solicitor or a barrister. Again, it's probably more common if you're a barrister to go down judging. But yeah, times are changing.
Ollie, listen, this has been super interesting. It's not a world that I know much about, or I think most people don't know much about. So thank you for this insight. I think, on behalf of everyone who's watching this, just want to wish you all the best with
thank you very much
with this academic year and your chosen career, and make the most of it.
Cheers. I hope so.
All right, cheers, Ollie, have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.